Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily for Thursday, December 12th. I'm your host for today, Riley Fessler, joined by Minna Stein. How are you doing today, Minna?
I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad. Well, we had a really bad news day yesterday, so why don't you get us started off, Minna, with hopefully good news?
Mixed news. FBI Director Chris Wray announced he will step down early next year following signals from President-elect Donald Trump that he intends to replace him with Kash Patel, a figure critical of the FBI. Wray's resignation comes before the completion of his 10-year term, which Trump had appointed to him in 2017. The move follows increasing criticism from Trump and his allies, especially after the FBI's search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in 2022 over classified documents. Trump supporters, including key Republican figures, see Wray's departure as necessary for FBI reform, while others, including Senate Democrats, express concern over the Bureau's future and its independence. Yes, definitely worried about its independence, especially when this person was appointed by Trump, went against Trump, and now is resigning due to being replaced. So definitely worried about the independence.
Yeah, I don't fully understand the logic of resigning rather than forcing Trump's hand. I mean, Trump would do it, so I guess the result is ultimately the same, but I would have liked to see some resistance here. So I think it's kind of unfortunate that he's just resigning. But yeah, I mean, Kash Patel is a Trump bootlicker through and through, so we should definitely be concerned about the FBI's independence in the future, especially now that he apparently is going to be able to. Well, I mean, I suppose he still has to get confirmed, but there's one less obstacle between Kash Patel and leading the FBI, which should keep anybody up at night.
Exactly.
President Joe Biden has granted clemency to over 1,500 individuals, the largest single-day act of its kind in modern history. This includes commutations for those released to home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic and pardons for 39 nonviolent offenders, many of whom have shown rehabilitation and made positive contributions to their communities. The move builds on Biden's earlier clemency actions, such as pardoning marijuana possession offenses and military members punished under outdated laws. Advocates are pressing Biden to commute federal death row sentences and pardon high-profile figures like lawyer Stephen Donziger. More clemency decisions are expected before his term ends. Good. There should be more. I hope there's more before his term ends.
And maybe we'll see a forward-looking pardon, although probably not. But that would be interesting if he did.
That will be interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if there's a precedent for that, is there?
There is not, which is why it would be interesting. I doubt it will happen, but it would make things interesting as we transition to the new administration. And another thing making that transition interesting is our next story. President-elect Donald Trump has invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to his inauguration on January 20th, though it remains unclear whether Xi has accepted the invitation. Trump, who has praised his relationship with Xi, has named several China hawks to key positions in his administration, signaling a tough stance on China. He has threatened to impose additional tariffs on Chinese goods over issues like fentanyl tracking, prompting warnings from China about potential trade war. Despite tensions, China's ambassador to the U.S. emphasized the importance of dialogue and cooperation, while U.S. ambassador to Beijing acknowledged deep differences between the two countries. So another unprecedented move.
Yeah, I mean, Trump's China policy, such as it exists, just doesn't make sense to me. Very clearly aggressive and hawkish, but meanwhile inviting Xi Jinping to his inauguration, it's just, I don't know how that squares for people. But I didn't vote for him, so it doesn't have to make sense to me, I guess. But I'm curious what his supporters think of this. I mean, if they even care, which they probably don't. But I would be very surprised if she actually came.
Yeah,
but I guess we'll see.
He's going to.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But I did read another article that said the majority of voters are feeling hopeful about the next 4 years. Seeing moves like this and I guess feeling positive about the future.
I don't know what you could possibly be hopeful about, other than being hopeful that it's like won't be as bad as we think it's going to be. But I mean, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know how anybody can be excited about a single decision Trump has made unless you're like fully lost in the sauce of MAGA.
Or just not paying attention, as we know most voters are.
And that's the reality, is that most people are not paying attention. So they're just know a new administration's around the corner and they feel just vaguely excited about it.
Mm-hmm. About a switch from Biden.
People just really love the vague idea of change when it comes to elections in the U.S., which is very frustrating because there are such things as good and bad changes, which is shocking. Sure. I'm sure to all our listeners. Switching gears, Syrian rebel forces led by Abu Muhammad al-Jalani of HTS have announced plans to close the notorious prisons of ousted President Bashar al-Assad, pursue those responsible for torture and killings, and dissolve the former regime's security forces. Videos show thousands of prisoners being freed from Saydnaya prison, described as a human slaughterhouse by rights groups, following the fall of Assad's 54-year rule after a rebel offensive captured Damascus. Jalani vowed to seek justice for victims and collaborate with international organizations to secure chemical weapons sites amid concerns about Israeli strikes on military infrastructure. Seemed like good moves to me. If you want more about this, check out yesterday's episode of Deep State Radio where we talked about Syria, and then we will be talking about it again today. So you have 2 Syria episodes that should give you a deep dive into a few different aspects of this. So stay tuned for that.
And our last story for today, lawmakers are working toward a deal to prevent a government shutdown by December 20th, with a key sticking point being disaster aid for Hurricane Helene and Milton. The Biden administration has requested $115 billion for disaster relief, but some Republicans are concerned about the size of the request and are pushing for offsets to fund it. In addition to disaster aid, other items like the Farm Bill extensions and the IRS funding are being discussed. While some lawmakers resist a long-term stopgap, negotiations are hopeful that a deal can be reached by March 2025. It does seem like we approach this story every time the budget is in discussion. Maybe there will be a government shutdown. Maybe they can't agree. I do think that at least in my lifetime, there have been more government shutdowns than in other people's lifetimes. My point being they're more frequent these days, highlighting the need for bipartisanship.
Well, and it's just come down to the fact that everything is politicized all the time.
Yeah.
So it's now just been used as a weapon to, or I should say a negotiating tactic. And it's frustrating. I feel like almost people are becoming numb to this, where there's a threat of a shutdown every time.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of losing its potency, but it's still very serious. It affects a lot of people. So we shouldn't be numb to it. We should question why our lawmakers continue to use this as a way to kind of try and force through their agendas.
Definitely.
Well, that's all we really got for you today. Not as bad as yesterday. So I guess there's something to be happy about. But we have, as I alluded to, another pod for you today from Deep State Radio. We've got more pods throughout the network, and we've got more for you tomorrow. So until then, bye-bye.